Namaskar, I am Shefali Vaidya. Today I am going to talk to you about Goan history. Many of you must have gone to Goa as travelers. You'd love the Goan beaches and churches and temples. Brochures tell you that Goa is a land of fun, festivities and feni. Yes, all of this is true. But Goa is also a place which has a very tragic history of religious persecution. Goa was under 450 years of colonial rule under the Portuguese. And while the Portuguese were in Goa, they perpetrated the most vicious horrors on the population of Goa in the name of religion, in the name of Christianity. The Pope had given Portugal not just the right, but the responsibility to convert the local people of Goa to Christianity. So when Alphonse de Albuquerque first came to Goa in 1510, Goa was under the rule of Adil Khan of Bijapur. But the people of Goa were persecuted by the Islamic rulers of Bijapur. So they complained to Mr. Timaya, who was a general of the Honawar kingdom, to come and rescue the people of Goa from the tyranny of Adil Khan. But Timaya alone could not do it. So what he thought was he would convince the Portuguese under the forces of Alphonse de Albuquerque to launch an attack on Goa, and once the Adil Khan is defeated, then he would pay a tribute to the Portuguese and the Portuguese would go back. So that happened. Timaya and the local population of Goa fought from the land and the Portuguese fought from the sea, and Adil Khan's forces were defeated. The Portuguese became the rulers of Goa. Timaya said, I will now give you a lot of money, but you need to go back to Portugal. And you can imagine what the Portuguese said. They said, no, we are going to stay here. This is going to be our colony. And thus started the saddest period of Goa's history. Religious persecution started in right earnest. The Jesuit priests, who were the most fanatical, arrived in Goa and they started converting the people of Goa. Temples were demolished, new churches were built in their place, and people were converted either through fear or through greed or through coercion. And the Hindus were persecuted. They were told to leave the islands of Goa and Diwar within 30 days, leaving their land behind. Remember, this was the 16th century where land was everything. People earned their living from land. Land was the only property that people accumulated. So giving up land was very difficult for the Hindus of Goa. But they still did it. Wherever possible, they took their deities with them and they crossed the river and they moved to the Hindu territories rather than prefer to stay in Portuguese territories and become converted. But a lot of people did convert. Some were converted by force, some were converted because of greed. But the Portuguese found that even when the people were converted, they kept going back to the religion, their original dharma. They would worship in a certain way, they would put flowers to the murtis, they would wear the dresses they were accustomed to. And the Portuguese didn't like it. Francis Xavier, who was in Goa as a Jesuit missionary, he said the Hindus cannot be trusted. So he wrote a letter to the King of Portugal and he said, please establish a court of inquisition. The court of inquisition was a horrible institution patronized by the Catholic Church and started by the governments of Portugal as well as in Spain, that punished converts to Christianity who would secretly practice the rites of their previous religions. It was already being practiced in Portugal as well as in Spain, but because of Xavier's letters, Portuguese decided to establish a court of inquisition in Goa. The court of inquisition had very sweeping powers. It met in what was previously known as Adil Khan's palace in Old Goa. It was a massive palace that was turned into a big prison. It had underground cells and people were arrested there randomly. Anybody would complain against their neighbor whom they didn't like or for whatever reasons, and the court of inquisition, the first thing it would do is it would take away their property and arrest them. And after that, in many cases, the person was never seen or heard again. The people were tortured in most inhuman ways. There are documented tortures like tortures by water torture, tortures by stretching them on a pulley, tortures by, all sorts of horrible, most horrible tortures. And the people who confessed after those tortures, they were strangled and burnt alive, and the people who didn't confess, they were actually burnt alive in very public ceremonies called auto da fe. There was a French traveler called Charles Dellon who was imprisoned by the Inquisition for almost 1.5 years. But finally he was released because of pressure from the French, and when he went back to Paris, he actually wrote a book about the horrors of Inquisition. It is the most authoritative contemporary account of the tortures that were carried out under the name of Inquisition. Many things happened because of this religious persecution of the Portuguese. Under the Portuguese, the rules were so repressive that Hindus could not ride horseback. Hindus were not allowed to hire Christian laborers. Hindus were not allowed to participate in Gram Sabhas. You couldn't sing religious songs called Vovio for your religious ceremonies. You could be arrested by the Inquisition. You could not give betel leaf. You could not wear Indian clothes. You could not have rice without salt. You could not bathe in the morning. Simple things like that could get you arrested and tortured by the Inquisition. Inquisition also made the Hindus so defensive and so persecuted about their own faith that they were forced to migrate to other territories, either in Karnataka or in Kerala or in parts of Goa which were then not under Portuguese rule. Which is why today you find a huge community that speaks Konkani all along the coast. The Inquisition was a horrible tribunal of torture. It lasted in Goa for almost 252 years. And not all data is available because when the Portuguese abolished Inquisition, they did burn quite a lot of the records. But from the records available, we know that in 65 years, the Inquisition arrested more than 16,000 people, which is a huge number considering the population of Goa at that point of time. But you might ask me, why are we talking about it today? In 2018, what happened in the 16th century? It's the past, right? A lot of people have asked me that. Why rake up the past? Because it is not the past. What happened to the Hindus of Goa in the 16th century happened to the Hindus of Kashmir in the 1990s. It is happening to the Hindus of West Bengal even as we speak. It happened to the Hindus of Kerala. You travel along the coast of Kerala and you will see how rapidly it is changing. We have to talk about the past if we want to secure our future. The church needs to be held accountable because the church has apologized to the Rwandans. The church has apologized to the Jews for the excesses it carried out. But the church has never said anything about the horrors it perpetrated on the Goans, on the genocide it perpetrated on the Goan Hindus, and for the migration of so many Goan Hindus who moved to Kerala and Karnataka. Unless we confront our past, the past will continue to remain, the present continuous. Thank you.